Today is a news, reactions, and rankings change show. We're going to go over everything notable we saw in the preseason games, plus all the other news coming out of camp. I will say, Evan and I have been doing this a really long time. I think it's been worse than ever in terms of people overreacting to every little thing from preseason. Our job is to stay measured, take long views when it makes the most sense, decipher what actually matters and what doesn't. But man, there is just like information overload, and people are just going crazier than usual this year in terms of swinging things wildly. But anyways, that's the world we live in. Let's start, Evan, with the Jets. So this has been an ongoing story for a while. Jets running back. Throughout the entire offseason, Aaron Glenn, Jet staff have been talking about, we're going to use three backs. We're going to use three backs. It's going to be a committee. And a lot of coaches talk like that, but Aaron Glenn was like relentless about it. And then in the first preseason game, very small sample here, but first preseason game, the snaps with Justin Fields were Breece Hall 5, Isaiah Davis 3 on a bunch of passing down stuff, and then Braylon Allen 2. So, Evan, what did you think of the latest data point we have on how the Jets are going to deploy their backfield this season?
It's a big problem for Breece Hall. And if you really think about it, I mean, you should really think of this backfield as a potential four-way committee because, their quarterback is going to run a lot. We saw him run in the preseason opener. The Jets ran the ball 39 times in their preseason opener. This is the culture that Aaron Glenn is looking to install. And, I mean, there's going to be a lot of rushing attempts to go around, but you got four contributors in the backfield, and you got a team that isn't going to throw the ball. And one of Breece Hall's biggest strengths as an NFL player is his receiving ability. And that's going to go by the wayside. I mean, Justin Fields does three things on third downs. He will throw to his first read, he will look to run, or he'll take a sack. And none of those things involve dumping down to Breece Hall. I think if you've already drafted, Breece Hall in best ball, or you're looking to draft him, you want him to get traded to like Dallas, because this right now is a situation where he's not going to catch a ton of passes. The Jets as a team probably aren't going to score many touchdowns. And there's essentially a four-way backfield committee. So this is not a situation that is, this is not a fantasy-friendly environment for Breece Hall.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things. Just first, there are rumors out there of a trade, right? And they're wild rumors, nothing substantiated. It's just like random people on the internet. But Breece Hall is entering the final year of his contract. This is a new regime. I doubt they're going to bring him back. A trade could make sense, maybe closer to the deadline, maybe not before the season, but closer to the trade deadline. So there's some factor there. The second thing I'd say is Breece Hall was a pretty good prospect, man, and has had a pretty good NFL career. So I don't want to completely bury him. Like, this is a talented player. I agree with Evan that the situation has gotten significantly worse if they're going to play both Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis and try to do this three-man committee plus the field stuff. Evan has dumped Breece Hall down to 65 overall in his latest update to the top 150, which is very tight to Braylon Allen, who Silva has at 93 overall. Silva does not have Isaiah Davis ranked. So you're real close now. I mean, much tighter than the market, Evan, is between Breece and Braylon. That gap is getting tighter in the market, but you're still even tighter than it is. So, yeah, I mean, Evan has a full fade on Breece Hall right now, I would say.
I think we need to remember, especially about Braylon Allen, this guy went to Wisconsin as a linebacker recruit, wound up converting to running back, and is 21 years old still. Yeah. He's in his second year. He turned 21 in January. He is still very much in his developmental phase. You talk to anybody in the NFL, they'll say from year one to year two is when NFL players make their biggest leaps. It should surprise no one if Braylon Allen, who had a nice rookie season, is significantly better in his first year after his first full offseason of being in an NFL training and conditioning program.
Yeah. I gave my Braylon Allen take on Market Monday yesterday at 17 years old in the Big Ten. He ran for 1,200 yards. 17 years old, playing against Big Ten competition in Wisconsin, runs for 1,200 yards. I like him. What I said on Market Monday, Evan, I'm curious your take on this. If he's so good, why hasn't he completely iced Isaiah Davis? And I understand Isaiah Davis is playing on some pass downs and stuff like that, but if he's so good, I want to see him cleanly ice Isaiah Davis.
I think that Isaiah Davis is just a different style of player than Braylon Allen.
Yeah. That's totally fair. And that's the way they used him in the preseason game. Like I said, Davis was mostly in on passing down type of stuff. All right. Story number 2. We got to look at the Broncos starting unit here. Bo Nix played 19 snaps in this game. Wide receiver snaps were really interesting with Bo Nix. Courtland Sutton, 17. Okay, that was expected. Marvin Mims, 16 out of 19 snaps with Bo Nix. Vele, 8. Troy Franklin, 8. The rookie Pat Bryant, 2. This Mims, 16 out of 19 snaps, was a big change from last season when Mims was a frustratingly rotational player, never played more than 70% of the snaps in a game, and was often far below that. I mean, basically, the way that Marvin Mims was used last year was like a gadgety player, but he went nuts on his usage. He did not get normal wide receiver usage. It was a lot of screens, some bombs, but no consistent normal wide receiver usage. He only saw 3 targets per game. So this was one that really stood out to me. Evan, how sticky do you think this is? Marvin Mims playing 16 of 19 snaps here with Bo Nix.
I don't know. I'm still kind of in wait and see mode because, I mean, I think that there were some surprises in the Broncos' first preseason game. We'll get to the running back situation as well. I think that this is one of the situations where they go to the second preseason game and a couple things flip. But I'm excited about Marvin Mims. I mean, if he can grab the clear-cut number 2 receiver job for the Broncos, and I've seen like weird tweets about Marvin Mims. Like I saw one tweet floating around that like, he's the worst click in fantasy. Like why? I mean, he's been hyper efficient when he's had opportunities in the NFL to this point. He has scored 7 touchdowns on 61 career receptions. He's averaging almost 14 and a half yards per catch through 2 seasons. He has been a sick punt returner.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been the best punt returner in the NFL over the last 2 years. He's great with the ball in his hands. When the comparisons were made, this is his 3rd year. He's still only 23 years old. The comparisons were made. Remember Sean Payton traded up to draft Marvin Mims as the first ever pick of the Sean Payton regime. The comparisons were to Brandon Cooks. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the light hasn't gone on immediately for Marvin Mims, but he's still a very young player. We know he's got talent. And so if he can grab a big role like that, I mean, he will destroy his ADP, which has been, I mean, I don't know. People like are really, really averse to drafting him, but I mean, I don't really get it.
So the case against him is, first of all, he had 2.57 yards per route run last season. I don't think people understand how elite that is. That was 4th in the entire NFL, behind only Puka, A.J. Brown, and Nico Collins. It was just ahead of Justin Jefferson, Brian Thomas, Mike Evans, Jamar Chase. So obviously off the charts per route efficiency. What people are going to say is that when he's playing normal wide receiver role, doing normal wide receiver things, he will not be nearly that efficient. He is only a gadgety type player. And I get that to some degree, but at some point, he's not that expensive. You can just close your eyes and bet on a really explosive player if we think he's actually going to get that kind of usage. I do kind of agree with Evan that I do not buy that this is going to be 100% is going to be sticky. Sean Payton has a long history of rotating through secondary wide receivers, and he has a bunch of them on the team. I mentioned Vele, Franklin, Pat Bryant, who they spent the draft pick on here as well. But yeah, in touchdown-heavy formats, he's a little bit worse in full PPR, I think, is Marvin Mims, but half PPR, more touchdown-heavy formats, I'm okay taking shots on him right now. Evan's up at 124 overall on Marvin Mims, which I think is a fair price there. Okay, speaking of the Broncos, story number 3, running backs. So on those 19 Bo Nix snaps, it was RJ Harvey, the rookie, 12. J.K. Dobbins, the veteran, 7 snaps. Most of J.K. Dobbins' snaps came on clear passing situations, and that was what I expected. They do not trust R.J. Harvey in pass protection. The reason they went out and got Dobbins was like, man, this guy's incredible in pass protection. He's so smart out there. He's going to play 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, clear pass downs. Maybe he steals some base work from Harvey also. In this game, however, Harvey got almost all of the base work. Evan, what did you make of Broncos backfield coming out of the first preseason game?
Well, it's funny the way that this stuff swings. So all the because RJ Harvey is like super polarizing. So all the anti-RJ Harvey people were like going nuts. Like, I told you so when the depth chart came out and he was like 6th. They just buried all the rookies and they're like, oh yeah, RJ Harvey, he's not a factor. And then he comes in, or it's the first preseason game, and RJ Harvey gets like all the first team reps, And then the RJ Harvey cheerleaders, they're all back in, like, what? What do you mean? And then Ben Albright comes. Someone asks or tells Ben Albright that RJ Harvey started. Ben Albright covers the Broncos. He's covered them for quite a while. Informs him that RJ Harvey started the game, and he's like, "Well, yeah, that's because J.K. Dobbins was supposed to start, but he couldn't find his helmet in time to get out there." So, this is another situation where I think it could flip into the second preseason game. I'm still kind of in wait and see mode. I haven't made any movement off of this because I did move Marvin Mims up, but I haven't touched RJ Harvey or J.K. Dobbins yet.
Yeah, I didn't think it was any surprise. The depth chart stuff was obviously ridiculous and stupid. I didn't think there was any surprise in the way these guys were used. I think we have it pinned pretty well there on Broncos running back stuff for sure. And by the way, with this offensive line and this defense, like, both these guys have a chance to be productive in fantasy at their cost.
That's a very fair argument. I just did a show with JJ too, and he's basically said the same thing. He's like, I'm in on both of them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be the winning strategy. You don't have to necessarily pick one or the other, especially because J.K. Dobbins is pretty cheap. RJ Harvey can be a little bit expensive, but I mean, he's not too expensive.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be in on both for sure.
And I mean, this offense is going to throw the ball to the running back position. We talked about that on the Coaching Change show. Always, always, always. Sean Payton offenses are among the league leaders in running back target rate. And the ETR ranks we're currently at 59 overall on Harvey and 108 overall on Dobbins. Let's go to, I got to give a shout out before we move on here to everyone behind the scenes on the ETR NFL team. We have 15 to 20 people all working on this stuff. We're talking about ball knowers, data science nerds, spreadsheet socialists. All of us are working on this stuff almost 24/7 this time of year to try to make sure that we have the most accurate and up-to-date rankings. It all flows through the draft kit, which is just $49.99. You can check that out on establishtheRun.com. But yeah, a lot of this stuff goes in waves and seasonality in terms of how much and how hard people are grinding. Just everybody behind the scenes, it's a lot more than it seems to get all this stuff going that you see in the draft kit. So shout out to everybody there. All right. Story 4, Packers wide receiver update. So we turn on the game, the Packers' first preseason game, and Jayden Reed's in a boot. Now, I knew that Jayden Reed wasn't really practicing. I didn't know that he was in a boot until we spotted him in it for the game. There's not a lot of timelines out there, or really any timelines on Jayden Reed. Matt LaFleur said, hopefully we'll get Jayden Reed back before the regular season. I think anytime you see a guy in a boot, that's a concern. They're calling it a sprained foot. All this has done, Evan, is light a fire to the Matthew Golden price. I mean, everybody is falling all over themselves now to draft Matthew Golden. What do you make of Jayden Reed's foot injury, and how are you handling Packers wide receiver right now?
It's a big deal because, I mean, the Packers have not even come out and given it like firm commitment to Jayden Reed being ready for week 1. This is a player, although he is the most established member of the Packers receiver core, was still kind of in, at least a little bit of a camp battle to try to get into those 2 receiver sets. This would have been a good opportunity for him to capitalize on because Romeo Doubs has been hurt and so is Dontavian Wicks, and he's missing that opportunity. So it is a big deal. And I think I had to move Jayden Reed down, and he had been a guy that I was drafting, and had to move Matthew Golden up. Leone will call it capitulation, but I call it evaluation. That I had to move Matthew Golden up the rankings, begrudgingly.
Well, I have bad news. Leone is still going to be all over you because you're still far behind ADP.
I know
on Matthew Golden.
Oh, I know. Trust me. Every day it's a war in the Slack streets.
The only good news I'd say on Jayden Reed is that he had this toe injury that he was nursing before camp. This is reportedly not related to that. This is a sprained foot. The other thing was a toe. But yeah, we're getting pretty aggressive on Matthew Golden now in the ETR ranks. We are at 76 overall. Matthew Golden, 80 overall on Jayden Reed. Silva still has Jayden Reed a couple rounds clear, or a round and a half clear here of Matthew Golden. But yeah, we're looking for information on the Jayden Reed injury, and we'll certainly be adjusting there. Just for the best ball people out there on Packers wide receiver, I mean, Romeo Dobbs, we've been like 2 or 3 rounds ahead of his ADP all offseason. Just like a boring best ball pick that is better than a redraft pick. Like, I don't think Romeo Dobbs is going to go out there and explode, but he can get you 8 points, 9 points. He's going to be out there a ton. I think he's a pretty solid best ball pick. All right. Story 5. Travis Hunter gets 11 of 12 snaps with the Trevor Lawrence group. Travis Hunter only came off the field in 3 wide receiver sets. And by the way, I should note that Liam Cohen's Bucs last year were in 3 wide 71% of the time, 8th most in the NFL. I think that's important because the role that I see for Travis Hunter is kind of similar to the Jayden Reed role, where he plays in 3 wide receiver sets. A lot of his work comes in the slot, but he's targeted a ton there when he's on the field. So what do you think of Travis Hunter's NFL debut? Evan, he did catch 2 underneath short passes.
Yeah, and everyone was talking about how he got like trucked by Caleb Johnson or something like that on defense.
Yeah,
but
he missed the tackle. He didn't get trucked, but he did miss the tackle.
Yeah. Either way, like Travis Hunter, I think that it just kind of confirmed what the indications were coming out of their inter squad scrimmage, and what Liam Cohen was talking about. Like Travis Hunter is gonna be an offensive player first, at least to start the year. I mean, I think he'll be it the entire year. But I mean, he's going to be an offensive player first, and he's going to be a specialty player on defense. And I'm excited about him. I mean, before this game, even I moved him from wide receiver 32 to wide receiver 24, just kind of like taking a stance on him. I want people that read my rankings to draft him. I want to draft him. He's awesome, and I think this offense is going to be pretty explosive this year under Liam Cohen.
Yeah, Evan is up now to 46 overall on Travis Hunter. We are also taking him up a little bit on the ETR ranks. We're at 54 overall on Travis Hunter in the ETR ranks. But yeah, I mean, clearly he's going to play on offense and play a ton. And I do think that slot role is an interesting one for him in those 3 wide receiver sets. I just don't want people
they want to get the ball in his hand and let him go to work.
And that's the thing. When we argue about Jayden Reed and stuff, it's like if you make it a priority to get your slot man the ball in 3 wide receiver sets, you can still rack up a ton of targets that way. Just, you have to earn targets and you have to be open. So, and I agree. I think Travis Hunter will. Jaguars running back. So story 6, Jaguars running back, Travis Etienne. And this was, Tank Bigsby, we've talked about it on here. Tank Bigsby had a lot of momentum in the early part of camp to the point where it seemed like he was getting most of the first team reps. Show up to the first preseason game, Travis Etienne starts. Travis Etienne gets 12 of 12 snaps with Trevor Lawrence. Bigsby comes in after Trevor Lawrence leaves. Bashal Tutin finishes out the game. Now, my thought, Evan, I don't know what you think. My thought was if this was a real game, it would have been more situational based. Maybe a 1st and 10 from their own 20. It would have been Tank Bigsby. But I'm at least a little bit murkier now that maybe Travis Etienne can have a bigger role than I thought in base. But I definitely think Travis Etienne has the change of pace and pass down stuff locked up, at least for week 1. Evan, what'd you make of Travis Etienne getting a big role there in the first preseason game?
My take on this backfield, and it has not changed, is that we're just going to be kind of chasing for a while, maybe playing some whack-a-mole. We're gonna try to end up getting it right, but we're kind of just chasing on news and depth chart stuff, and because it's a 3-way race. And Bashal Tutin in the game on the field, and we don't really focus on preseason game performance that much, but Bashal Tutin had some sick pile carrying runs in that first preseason game. And then on Monday, when they resumed practicing, Bashal Tutin is getting first team reps. Like they gave him a promotion and he ripped off a 50-yard touchdown in practice. I mean, this is a situation where every day things are going to happen to affect. And then I think Etienne was missing or, missed reps with cramping. And Tank Bigsby tweeted out like a weird set of emojis. And it's who knows, how it's going to shake out. I think that the highest upside running back, though, is Bashal Tutin. And the way that he looked in the first preseason game, he looked awesome.
What do you think about people who say they were showcasing Travis Etienne for a trade, right? This is a preseason game. We'll put him out there, let him run, put some tape on him, and then we can try to trade him.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy. This is another guy who I think could maybe end up in Dallas. They also used a draft pick on LaQuint Allen.
Yeah.
I remember doing draft grades, and I was like, man, this team used 2 draft picks on running backs. Travis Etienne's contract is coming up. The regime has no ties to Tank Bigsby. It was almost like they were trying to redo the running back room.
Yeah.
And none of that has not developed, but I mean, it still could. I mean, I think that Travis Etienne could easily be traded.
Yeah. Tutin's price in best ball has gotten really cheap. And I talked on here a bunch how I wasn't taking him when he was going around 100, 110, 120. But now at like 140, I've been getting a bunch of Tutin lately and kind of close my eyes, bet on talent, and kind of see how it shakes out.
And I think this is a backfield that's going to matter. I mean, at least if you buy into the possibility of the Jaguars taking a big offensive leap, which I am.
Let's stay in the NFC South for story number 7. Chig Okonkwo, 15 of 15 snaps with Cam Ward. That is a big change from last year when Chig Okonkwo was a part-time player. He only played 61% of the snaps last year. I kind of think maybe it's a carryover from the way that Chig ended last year when he saw 10, 11, and 7 targets in his final 3 full games. He's still only 25 years old. Maybe he's found something here, and he gets the quarterback upgrade to Cam Ward. So I've been taking Chig a lot as a late round tight end. I don't know how sticky this usage is going to be, but man, if he can get towards 80, 90% of snaps, I think that's a big difference for Chig. Evan, any movement for you on Chig in the ranks?
Yeah, he has been my go-to third tight end to this point. And I mean, now, if he's going to get this kind of, like, he's going to be a tight end too. So, and I also, everything that I hear is very positive about Cam Ward. The offensive line in the preseason opener, and again, I don't want to read too much into preseason game performance, but the offensive line was giving Cam Ward loads of time. We've talked about the offensive line potentially taking a big step in Bill Callahan's second year with all that they've invested into it. I mean, they've got a couple of first-round picks up there. They've got a bunch of high-priced free agent signings on the O-line. I think that this offense can take a leap as well, and Chig Okonkwo could be carried by that. And you're right. I mean, he picked up a lot of momentum late last season. We know he's a big-time athlete. If he can be close to an every-down player, he is going to destroy his ADP.
Yeah, Cam Ward's debut, 5 of 8 for 67 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Out of those 5 completions, 3 of them went to Calvin Ridley for 50 yards. And Calvin Ridley is someone that in that range of wide receiver that I am just absolutely smashing. And I think also in that range of wide receiver in season long, that makes it like those mid-round wide receivers are such a strong target. I'm talking about Pickens, Jameson Williams, Calvin Ridley, Zay Flowers, Devonta Smith, all those guys through there are some of my favorite wide receiver targets in the mid-range, and I would consider Calvin Ridley to be absolutely right there with them.
Calvin Ridley in an incredibly dysfunctional offensive environment last year had like a really nice season, and now I think he's getting a considerable upgrade at quarterback, going from Will Levis, who was a disaster, to the number 1 overall pick in the draft.
Okay, let's stay with the Titans for story number 8. Tyjae Spears sustained a high ankle sprain in this game. He's listed week to week. Evan and I have talked a lot about high ankle sprains. It's not good. Mason Taylor reportedly sustained a high ankle sprain. He's somehow already back at practice. Sometimes I get like worried that teams use the term high ankle sprain when they shouldn't.
Absolutely.
But whatever. Either way, they're calling this a high ankle sprain for Tyjae Spears. There's very little behind Spears and Tony Pollard. Evan was already mega high on Tony Pollard. Now Evan is up to 45 overall in the wake of this Tyjae Spears injury. Evan, what do you think of the Titans backfield coming out of this game?
Yeah, if you're using the rankings, you're going to get Tony Pollard in every draft. I mean, this is a guy I'm way out in front on, and like I'm not afraid. I mean, it was a little bit of confirmation bias this happening because I just never thought that Tyjae Spears was really capable of catching Tony Pollard. I just think that Tony Pollard's way better, and also I believe in that this offense can take a big step forward. And so that would be huge for Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard had a nice season last year, again, really dysfunctional offensive environment. If we can get that just to functional, that's huge for Tony Pollard, who right now looks to have almost no competition for the foreseeable future. I mean, Tyjae Spears will be back, but we know that, I mean, legit high ankle sprains. And I totally agree with you that that term may probably gets thrown around too much. Like everything's a freaking high ankle sprain these days. But if this is a legit, a high ankle sprain, I think that's like at least a 2 to 3 week injury, if not 4 to 6.
Yeah.
If it's in that range for Tyjae Spears, like Tony Pollard is going to run away with this, and Tyjae Spears is not going to catch him.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that Tony Pollard has shown is ability to carry a big workload, back-to-back seasons with 300-plus touches for Tony Pollard without really being injured, and has missed very little time in his career. So you have to feel good if you're the Titans about being like, well, you know what? Let's just give Tony 20 carries in this game. I think he can handle it. Story number 9. Oh, baby. One of the biggest risers in ADP out of the preseason games has been TreVeyon Henderson, which is kind of funny because what he did was return a kickoff for a touchdown. However, I did think it was notable that TreVeyon Henderson in this game played ahead of Antonio Gibson. And yeah, I know he should and everything, but sometimes coaches give the veteran deference and they would play a guy like Antonio Gibson ahead of TreVeyon. Patriots did not. 14 snaps that Drake May played, 7 to TreVeyon Henderson, 8 to Ramondre Stevenson. Yes, they were on the field together for one of them. I didn't think it was any surprise, really. Like, Josh McDaniels always has this guy in the offense. We've talked about James White, Danny Woodhead, Shane Vereen. It's just TreVeyon can give them more. He's an amazing pass catcher, but I feel like he can give them more in base also. So it's going to be expensive at this point, but TreVeyon Henderson is certainly rising. Evan, what do you think about TreVeyon coming out of the first preseason game?
Shot out of a cannon. I mean, that was an unbelievable kickoff return. I mean, just the speed and the explosiveness, but at the end of the day, you kind of don't want TreVeyon Henderson returning kicks. But then he's in there with the first team. So I felt really good about that debut. I had been drafting quite a bit of TreVeyon Henderson in like the 5th and 6th rounds. Mm-hmm. Now I'm kind of afraid that he's going to start to go in like the 4th.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the 3-4 turn for people that want to get real aggressive, because that 3rd, 4th round range kind of sucks.
Yeah.
This year. So I wouldn't blame anybody for wanting to get aggressive on a guy like TreVeyon Henderson here. I don't think Ramondre Stevenson is going away.
Right.
And Ramondre Stevenson probably going to get the ball at the goal line. But I mean, really fun preseason debut. I'm excited about TreVeyon Henderson's future, no doubt.
Silva's up to 48 overall on TreVeyon Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson at 105. I thought Ramondre was fine in the preseason game. And like Evan said, like, he's still going to get plenty of base work. The Patriots always had that. I'm trying to think like LeGarrette Blount scoring 20 touchdowns or something crazy in a season in that kind of big back role. Obviously, I don't think
Stephen Ridley.
Yeah, Stephen Ridley. Like, I don't think that Ramondre is going to do anything close to that, but he is going to have some version of that role. Speaking of the Patriots, story 10. I wasn't going to put this one on here, but like, the hip swivel bros, Evan. Kyle Williams, preseason performance, didn't show up in the box score, but like, there's all these cut-ups online of Kyle Williams just absolutely roasting dudes off the line with like his releases. And so the thought process is, well, yeah, he played behind Kishon Boutte and Matt Collins for now, but if he keeps getting releases like this and being open, he's going to smoke those guys eventually. I have not been drafting a lot of Kyle Williams. I'm a little concerned about it, but he has some veterans to get past. What do you think about Kyle Williams coming out of the first preseason game?
Yeah, I think that, he had quite a few supporters in like the game film community coming out of college. And I think that this kind of echoes his sentiments. I mean, he's got some nice moves as a route runner. It's just, for our purposes, like, we need him to be a full-time player, and we need him to get there. And he's not there yet, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, he would benefit from something happening to Steph Diggs, who is 31 years old and coming off of an ACL. Even though they don't play the exact same position, it would just open up a lot there. But as it stands, TreVeyon, Diggs, and Pop Douglas are going to earn a lot of targets there. Story 11. Got a scare on Rachaad White. Rachaad White sustained a groin injury in the Bucs' first preseason game. Did not look good at first, but they're calling him day-to-day as of now. We'll keep an eye on that. We still have almost a month to go, or a little bit less than a month to go before the season starts. So I think Rachaad White's going to be fine. But one thing this did is be like, everybody is on Sean Tucker now. And I get it, because Sean Tucker has had had one huge fantasy game here. as well. Evan, what'd you make of the Rachaad White injury and any Sean Tucker thoughts?
It just seems like it's not that big of a deal if they're calling him day to day.
Yeah.
So didn't make any big movements. I mean, I don't really want to draft Rachaad White. But yeah, I mean, it puts a highlight on Sean Tucker. I didn't move up Bucky Irving. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal right now to me.
Yeah.
If he's going to be day to day, he's probably going to be fine.
One thing that I will say is that, like, when I'm thinking about one injury away backs and contingent backs, I want to know that they're actually going to hit if they get in there. And I am real confident.
That's not Rachaad White.
Right. I'm real confident if something happened to Bucky, Sean Tucker would have a really, really strong role. And if something happens to Rachaad White, I think Sean Tucker would mix in there as well, and they'd let Bucky do more pass down stuff. So
yeah, I think that if something were to happen to Bucky, they could even pass over Rachaad White and have Sean Tucker be the lead back.
Yes.
Because Rachaad White, they like his pass protection, but he really doesn't bring a whole lot else to the table.
Yeah, he catches the ball well, but they have a very specific role for Rachaad White, and they've reiterated that plenty. All right. Story 12, I'm so tired of this story already, just like the Jaguars running back story, just like the Jayden Reed 2 wide receiver set story. I'm sick of this Matthew Stafford story, but it keeps taking a different twist and turn every day. I kind of thought we were in the clear. He threw on Saturday. He had a great workout, threw it 60 times, felt great. Then he comes in on Monday, doesn't feel great, doesn't practice. And then he starts getting asked about surgery. And McVay says, that hasn't been a conversation that we've had. Surgery is not something that we've talked about. McVay was asked, would Stafford be able to play if there was a game this week? I don't know that. I think he still probably would be able to play just based on how he feels. But because of how he felt overall, it's like, okay, what's the risk reward with us being 27 days out? So Rams still aren't sounding the alarms, but we're 25 days out or whatever, 26 days out. He still hasn't practiced, was supposed to practice on Monday and didn't do it. I hate like flip-flopping on this constantly, but I don't really know what else to do. Evan, what do you think about the current
It's the only way to play it.
Stafford, yeah.
It's the only way to play it. I mean, all we can do is chase this situation and, hope to make the best decisions because he keeps not meeting the timelines that they set.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying. I mean, it's almost like, the way that he was talking about, it's almost like he had a setback, that Matthew Stafford had a setback, which, God almighty, with a back injury for a 37-year-old dude who's had this before, it's terrifying. I mean, Devontae Adams right now is a really tough click. I think that Puka Nacua would be largely fine with Jimmy Garoppolo, but Kyren Williams will take a big hit. Like they would project to score like 10 fewer touchdowns over the course of the season if they had to go with Jimmy Garoppolo, even for half the season.
Yeah, and we put some decent docs. I wouldn't say decent. We put somewhere between mild and decent docs on Rams stuff here right now. Evan is at 14 overall on Puka, 36 on Devontae Adams. One thing that keeps sticking with me is like, yeah, maybe he'll be fine for week one. They can probably get him ready for week one. What happens when he gets trucked in the back by a 100-pound guy? You know what I mean?
And their left tackle has been, Alaric Jackson has been dealing with blood clots in his leg. Like, this is just one of those teams where you hate to feel so you have a bad feeling about them right now at this stage of the offseason, and that sucks.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to story 13. James Cook back at practice. It's not official yet that they're come to a terms or anything, but looks like he's at least pretty soon in practice. His hold-in is over. I don't think you ever made really a move here, Silva, as none of us were really too worried that James Cook was actually going to hold out into the regular season. Silva's at 33 overall on James Cook. Any new thoughts on Cook here as he returns to practice?
Yeah, I've got him in a pretty good spot. I don't think I ever moved him. I don't think he's scoring 16 touchdowns again. Yeah. I think it'd be great if he could get to 9 or 10. But he's a good back, and he's coming back in plenty of time that I'm not worried about his conditioning or a slow start or anything like that. And I think he does deserve to get paid. I mean, can use the Kyren Williams deal as a blueprint. I mean, it's right there for him.
Yeah, our ranks, like the math is pretty good on James Cook also. He's just been a tough one for me given, A, how hot he ran on touchdowns last year. he's only going to play like 50% of the snaps. He's going to lose some base work to Ray Davis. He's going to lose pass down work to Ty Johnson. And Josh Allen's a beast at the goal line. Now, if they score a bazillion touchdowns again, yeah, James Cook is a smash. And maybe they will. They also have a pretty tough fantasy playoff schedule. So I've been lukewarmish on James Cook, but I note that Silva's at 33 overall on James Cook, and the ETR ranks are at 32 overall on James Cook. So in line there, I'm just kind of an outlier lukewarm. Story 14, we finally got a Brandon Aiyuk update from Kyle Shanahan. What he said was, and he was asked about all the guys coming back from ACL tears. Kyle Shanahan says, I always see him around week 6, which means that could be week 10. It could be week 5. But that's the area where I start thinking about it, which is a long way away. I know it's not week 1 or anything like that. So it's not something I'm really thinking about too much. So basically, Kyle Shanahan confirmed that he'll start on PUP. Brandon Aiyuk, he'll definitely miss the first 4 games. Maybe he'll be back around week 5, maybe week 6. It could go out to week 10. He's basically saying he doesn't really know. And we know Kyle Shanahan's history on injury reports anyways. He's tough to trust there after all the Christian McCaffrey stuff last year. So I thought his ADP may have bottomed out because I thought this news was already known, but it's probably going to go even lower, as people told me on Twitter, and they're probably right. I mean, you can get Brandon Aiyuk now like 150. It might go even lower, 160. Any thoughts on where you'd actually take Brandon Aiyuk at this point? Evan, any more thoughts on that?
Drafting other guys, drafting other guys. I mean, this was a really bad injury. I don't think there's any guarantee that Brandon Aiyuk just snaps back to what he was doing in 2023? He had an awesome season in there, but he also has had like several clashes with the coaching staff during his time in San Francisco. And, I don't want him.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about is if he does come back for the stretch run, like the fantasy playoffs or whatever, and everybody else is healthy, and I know that's a big underdog, it would be crowded, man. They would have Juwan Jennings, assuming that this calf/contract thing gets cleared up, Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Aiyuk, Christian McCaffrey, one of the best target earners at the running back position, and George Kittle. It's just somebody's going to get squeezed out there if they're all healthy. It's obviously an underdog that they're all healthy, but I just wanted to note that for the stretch run on the 40.
Ricky Pearsall will surely have established himself as Brock Purdy's go-to guy by then.
Absolutely. All right, story 15. I talked about this guy on Market Monday. I'm curious to get Evan's take. Silva did move Jacory Crosky-Merritt up in his rankings. I've been thinking about this one and looking at it a lot, Evan. I don't want to overreact to round 7 rookies getting camp buzz because this happens every year and most of these guys absolutely flame out. But it seems like, and you can listen to Market Monday I for more on it, but it seems like there is something substantial that you can hang your hat on for Jacory Crosky-Merritt more than other round 7 picks. So Evan, what do you think about moving Jacory Crosky-Merritt up in the ranks?
I mean, I just think that he deserved it. Obviously Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson were out for the preseason opener. They're resting starters. And but Jacory Crosky-Merritt immediately jumped like he's ahead of Chris Rodriguez. He jumped right in there and operated with the first team. They're rewarding him the buzz for him has been steady, the steady drumbeat really since minicamp and OTAs. And when he was the MVP at the East-West Shrine, even before the draft. It's funny. It kind of is the year of the 7th round running back. There's buzz on like all these guys. Brashard Smith has gotten buzz. Jacory Crosky-Merritt, it's more than buzz when he's starting the first preseason game.
Yeah.
Kyle Monangai of the Bears. Damian Martinez has gotten a little bit of buzz. Phil Maffa even. People love to hype these guys up, but I think there's a little bit of substance to Jacory Merritt. One thing about Jacory Crosky-Merritt, who, by the way, goes by the name Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, he didn't play much in college for a variety of reasons. He bounced around, was ineligible for an entire season at one point. He had 7 catches in his entire college career. And I think that he is more of a threat, actually maybe much more of a threat to Brian Robinson than he is to Austin Eckler.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like Brian Robinson is some superstar. I think he's a solid NFL player. But one of the arguments for Bill is that Brian Robinson, if he's not explosive, if he's not playing well, they can just move on a little bit, and not move on, but turn into more of a timeshare. So I will say, I had the data guys pull this data. Since 2015, there have been 29 running backs drafted in round 7. Only 2 have ever posted usable numbers at any point in their career, Isaiah Pacheco and Chris Carson. And Carson did nothing in year 1. We also looked at all round 6, round 7, and undrafted free agent running backs who got a year 1 snap. Only 7 out of 121 scored at least 100 fantasy points in year 1. So I'm not saying that he can't do it. It's just historically not what happens, despite all the buzz that sometimes these round 7 picks get in August.
Yeah.
Let's go to, this one surprised me a little bit in Evan's ranking changes. Number 6, story 16, Silva moves Marvin Harrison up. Silva's now up to 29 overall on Marvin Harrison. I tweeted a video of all of Marvin Harrison's routes here from the first preseason game. I didn't really see much that would give me any more optimism than maybe I already had. Evan, what do you think, or why did you move Marvin Harrison up in the ranks?
I am just betting on a big second-year step forward from one of the most highly touted wide receiver prospects of his generation. At age 22, the dude showed up to training camp looking like T.O. So I just think that he's got a chance, which I think will help him in contested situations too, by the way. He put on 11 pounds of what appears to be straight, unadulterated muscle. So yeah, that's where the bet comes from. Also, he was in a range of wide receivers where I'm kind of like he's right around Tyreek Hill, and I wanted to make sure that he was fairly comfortably ahead of Tyreek Hill, although I think he's one spot ahead of him. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that he's ahead of Tyreek Hill because I am definitely taking Marvin Harrison Jr. over Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I prefer JSN and Devontae Adams to Marvin Harrison. They all go kind of in the same range there, but they're definitely close for sure. One other note from Arizona wide receivers, Michael Wilson lost some first-team snaps to Zay Jones, Evan's old friend Zay Jones, which surprised us a little bit. We did make a small tweak in the rankings to move Michael Wilson down a hair there based on that. Story 17, Panthers wide receivers. So Xavier Legette starts this game opposite Teteroa McMillan, gets ejected for fighting. Jalen Coker comes in and balls out. And I thought that was notable because Coker was pretty good last year, and he doesn't have as much pedigree as Xavier Legette. But if you're betting on Xavier Legette year 2 breakout, he better clear Jalen Coker easily. And I'm not sure that he's doing that right now. Evan, any thoughts on Panthers wide receiver coming out of the first preseason game?
Is that right? Xavier Legette has not cleared Jalen Coker?
Doesn't sound like it. It sounds like a battle to me.
Huh.
Let me read you this quote. Here's a quote from Canales. He said, he was asked about Jalen Coker. He said, "We're going to play the best guys. Jalen is showed to be one of the more reliable guys that we have." The draft capital on Coker was non-existent compared to Legette's draft capital, which is why that question was.
Xavier Legette, they traded up to draft him in the first round.
Yeah. Now,
I think that he was a reach. But all right, well, this is something I'm going to need to look more into. This quote is just, he's not really saying a lot.
Yeah.
There, about like a depth chart change.
I think Legette will open the season as the starter, but they are not going to hesitate to go to Coker if Legette's not playing.
The thing is that Xavier Legette, because they did not have an X receiver last year, he was forced to play X receiver, and that's not his position. That's Teteroa McMillan's position now. Yeah. And so, but he's a Z receiver. He's sort of like a Deebo Samuel, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not. He's not going to be as good as Deebo Samuel was, but he's just in a much more comfortable position now. A position that suits his skills. So I've been optimistic about Xavier Legette, but obviously, if he's going to lose his job, that's a concern.
He's going to have to play well to keep it, I think, is the bottom line. One other note from this game, I thought Bryce Young played well again, and 4 of 6, 58 yards and a touchdown. I only note that because he closed the year on fire. Like last 8 games of last year, just a real life quarterback, Bryce Young was one of the top 12 quarterbacks in the league. I don't think I'm going too far by saying that. And then he comes out in the preseason game, plays well. So in Superflex, 2 quarterback formats, Bryce Young has been a target for me. He's very, very, very cheap. Story 18, Najee Harris still not practicing. The backup battle is on. So I think it's mostly Kamani Vidal versus Raheem Rocket Sanders. They also have Hassan Haskins and Jared Patterson in the mix. But I guess the point here, Evan, is that if we think Najee might be in trouble, like done for the year with this eye situation, you're going to have something. And Greg Roman has used multiple backs historically at a reasonably high rate. You're going to have some stuff behind Amari and Hampton that we need to be aware of. So any takes for you on Chargers backup running back?
Well, I asked my friend who has not, seen Najee Harris's eye, but he is an optometrist and he's a really smart guy. And I was like, what do you think about this situation? He's like, dude, any kind of a routine eye injury, like your eye heals fast. If it's not healed within 3 days, like that's a real big concern. And it's been July 4th. We're on August 12th.
Yeah.
It's been 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
5 or 6 weeks. And it's almost like, and it's just the whole thing has just felt so shady. Like they're like trying to hide him. They signed Nyheim Hines. There's no way that I would draft Najee Harris. Oh, and then we had a discussion in our private Slack about could he play with one eye?
Yes.
And then I asked the optometrist, and he's like, "That's crazy." Like he was like, the eyes are like the most important, obviously for the quarterback, but in terms of positions, running back's got to be the second. It's got to be the second most important. Like you need both of your eyes.
Yeah.
Raheem Rocket Sanders is kind of a little interesting. He had a monster sophomore season at Arkansas, 222 carries in 13 games, 1,443 yards, 6.5 yards per carry, 10 touchdowns, 28 catches for 270. In his career, he averaged over 10 yards per reception. He's 217 pounds, and he ran 4.46. So, and he had a pretty nice preseason opener. I mean, I think it's interesting to note that this kind of stuff because, number one, they're going to run the ball. The Chargers are going to run the ball under Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, and they're probably going to use a number 2 back, at least to some extent. Love Amari and Hampton, have him ahead of ADP, click him almost every time in the 3rd round. But we need to know about the other backs because I don't think that Najee Harris can be playing anytime soon. And I also think that it's not guaranteed that Kamani Vidal gets this job. So Raheem Rocket Sanders is a name to keep in mind, no question. Undrafted player. You remember the Ravens, Greg Roman had a lot of success with an undrafted player in Baltimore by the name of Gus Edwards.
Yeah. We're at 27 overall on Amari and Hampton in the ETR ranks right now. I'm looking at season-long ADP. It looks like it's around 39. And in season-long, people are more kind of concerned with taking rookies. Hampton would be a target for me when he slips towards that season-long ADP for sure if he gets to like late 3rd, 3-4 turn where his current ADP is. Story 19, another running back injury here. Kenneth Walker's foot. Now, Kenneth Walker missed time earlier in camp with a foot issue, also sits out on Monday. McDonald was asked about it, and he said, we have a plan for Ken, and we're sticking to that plan. So he made it sound like it was kind of planned rest for Kenneth Walker, but does seem like there's something going on with his foot here. And this is a guy who has had a bunch of injuries. Obliques, missed 5 games last year, oblique issue, and then a calf/ankle issue. So he's been banged up. He's banged up right now. They're on some plan with him. We didn't really dock very much in the ETR ranks, but Evan, are you worried at all about this Kenneth Walker stuff?
I've already been low compared to market, compared to you guys on Kenneth Walker, so I don't think I'm moving him down. There's not a whole lot of analysis to be done here. We're just kind of waiting for more information. When is he going to come back? Zach Charbonnet obviously picking up a bunch of first-team reps, which is good for him. You still got the very questionable offensive environment to worry about in Seattle. There's not a whole lot of analysis to be done there. We're just kind of waiting.
Well, I will say, though, that this team's going to run the ball. And that's something that Mike McDonald talked about. They're going to play a bunch of big formations. They're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to run the ball a ton. If Kenneth Walker is hurt, Charbonnet is going to smash. We saw it last year in terms of workload and efficiency. Zach Charbonnet can play and certainly one of the best one injury away backs in the league.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I turned in the Seahawks team preview maybe like a week ago, and I just looked at the games that Kenneth Walker was out, and Zach Charbonnet was a monster workhorse in like every single one.
Oh, yeah. All right. Story 20, update on Cowboys running back situation. Both Miles Sanders and Jayden Blue have been hurt. Blue with some type of heel bruise, Miles Sanders with a knee issue. Neither sound very serious, but that's allowed Javonte Williams to get most of the first team reps. I don't think he's running away with the job. It's just by default, the other guys are hurt. Evan is still not ranked in the top 150 on Javonte Williams. He's at 103 overall on Jayden Blue. We also have these trade rumors circulating, which I think are a pretty big underdog to happen, but it's a non-zero chance, I would say. So yeah, Evan, where are you at on Cowboys backfield right now?
Yeah, haven't made any moves. Still ahead of ADP on Jayden Blue. Not drafting Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
So
I will say, like, Rico Dowdle sucks and sucked, but he still ran for over 1,000 yards and caught 39 balls for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think he's better than Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, though.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, maybe they all suck, but yeah. Story 21, we got to look at Jaxson Dart for extended work. And if you're a Giants fan, I thought you had to come away encouraged. Jaxson Dart comes in with the backups, goes 12 of 19 for 154 yards and a touchdown. He's also a better runner than he's given credit for. We talked about that on the prospect shows a bunch. Jaxson Dart ran 3 times for 24 yards, including a 19-yard run where he showed off some of his speed, did Jaxson Dart. The question now becomes, when will we see Jaxson Dart under center? We're projecting him for roughly 8.5 games here this year. Giants have a very difficult start to their schedule. Evan, what do you think of Jaxson Dart's debut and how it affects anything for Neighbors?
I thought he looked awesome.
Yeah.
And, ever since I gave the Giants an F for their draft grade, I get random replies from Giants fans every once in a while, like sending me clips of Jaxson Dart, from practice or, certainly from that sick touchdown pass that he had, so they're chomping at the bit to show the receipts.
Their defensive line is so dominant.
I know.
Stay in games. And even though they have this brutal schedule, that's why I'm worried about Russ getting more starts than he should this year, because their defensive line could keep them in games. They're going to be absolutely relentless in terms of rushing the quarterback.
I did feel good for the Giants fans, though, because, it was so ridiculous. Shedeur Sanders, who obviously the Giants passed on, had a very nice preseason opener, although we could pick that apart. And we're going to talk about that, aren't we?
Yes, we're going to talk about it.
But anyways, like all these reporters were like almost taunting the Giants fans. Like, you could have had this guy, like, and then Jaxson Dart comes out the very next day, and he looked way better than Shedeur Sanders, I thought.
Right.
But yeah, like Josina Anderson is like on Twitter taunting Giants fans about Shedeur Sanders. Like, that is like unprofessional. But anyways, I felt good for the Giants fans that they got to experience that, because Jaxson Dart looked great. And who knows how much any of this means, but Jaxson Dart looked freaking awesome.
Yeah. And I think for dynasty players, like, his ability to run is underrated. And I think Jaxson Dart is an interesting guy to have on your roster in dynasty. Let's go to a few small ones here before we wrap up. Alexander Mattison is done for the year. Alexander Mattison was in a battle for the big back role behind Devon Achane. He hurts his neck. He's out for the year. Hope he's okay. Now they have Jalen Wright, who struggled again in the preseason game, and Ollie Gordon, who looked really good. I don't think in redraft I would take any of these guys, but Evan, any thoughts on Dolphins' depth backfield here between Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon?
Oh, I take shots on Jalen Wright just because he's one injury away, and he's a guy that they invested in. You remember they drafted him in the 4th round. They traded a future third away to get him, but the camp reports haven't been overwhelmingly positive. They gave him, the goal line carries that Tyreek Hill has been lobbying for them to do, and he got stuffed 4 straight times in their preseason opener. Yeah. So I don't know about how good of a football player he is, but he was a big time athlete coming out. They invested in him. I'll take him late, but that's about the extent of it. Ollie Gordon is a big plotter, 6th round pick. Not too excited about him.
Okay. Story 23, Marshawn Lloyd returned to practice. Now, this groin issue ended up sidelining Marshawn Lloyd for only a couple weeks. So you say it's no big deal. If you zoom out, though, I still think it's a big deal because now the team just feels like they cannot rely on this guy. If Marshawn Lloyd, though, can stay healthy for the next 3 weeks, I do think he will open the season as Josh Jacobs' primary backup, which certainly has some value. So I'm just watching this Marshawn Lloyd stuff to just make sure, just don't get hurt, dude, for 3 weeks. Just like stay on the field. If he can't, then I feel like they're just going to give up on Marshawn Lloyd. So yeah, I don't think too much to update there, but any more thoughts on Lloyd in the Packers backfield?
Nope. Just hoping that he can stay healthy. I mean, I want to see him play, and I think that he could end up playing like quite a bit. I mean, Josh Jacobs has a lot of wear on his tires coming off. I think he had like 350 plus touches last year. He certainly had more than 300 carries.
Yeah.
So I think Marshawn Lloyd could be a factor, but it's just, we're waiting. I mean, he basically missed his entire rookie year, got hurt again in training camp. Got to stay healthy, man. Got to get and stay healthy.
All right. It would not be a football show unless we talked about Shedeur Sanders' NFL debut. Normally, we don't care about how 5th round or whatever it was quarterbacks fare in their debut. However, Shedeur is the talk of the NFL. He goes 14 of 23 for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, ran it 4 times for 19 yards. Evan, what did you think of Shedeur's NFL debut?
I thought it was really nice. I mean, for a guy who apparently wasn't even barely getting any reps in practice to go out and do that, it was really nice. He made some really nice throws. He also got away with running with his back to the defense, running away, like running deep in the backfield. He got away with that, and that's not going to happen in the NFL. So that looks fun, in a preseason game or, in the Big 12. But like that is not going to work in the NFL. So, it was nice. It was really good, especially for a guy who hasn't been getting practice. Also, reminder that like this team is going to start a lot of different quarterbacks over the course of the year. Apparently, Dylan Gabriel has looked totally unready, but Joe Flacco is going to start week 1. Kenny Pickett, whenever he gets back, I think that they want to at least take a multi-game look at him. And Shedeur Sanders, by his performance, like he deserves to play too. And they're going to want to look at him for sure because they're going to want to know about him because next year they're going to have to decide, like, are we going to draft a quarterback early? Are we going to trade up for a quarterback? They have to find out about Shedeur Sanders.
Well, I mean, and if he plays well, and if he plays like he did in this preseason game, there's some trade value there. If people think that he can help them,
Sure.
And like same with the Eagles stuff with Tanner McKee, who we're not talking about here today.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, people would probably give up a round 2 pick for Tanner McKee right now, or round 3.
Probably.
I mean, so you can always make a profit there if your quarterback plays well. Most desirable position in sports.
Howie Roseman, what a stud.
Last topic for today, story 25, is this Caleb Williams situation, the ongoing, saga of Caleb Williams. Did not play in the preseason game. None of the starters really did. The rookies did play, Loveland and Burden. But yeah, Evan, you wanted to put this on here. Any thoughts on what's going on with the latest in the Caleb Williams saga?
Yeah, I just think that we need to have an ongoing conversation about Caleb Williams because there are so many fantasy draftable dudes in the Bears offense that we got to talk about the quarterback.
Yeah.
And how was his development coming along? And why did he not play in the first preseason game? Because virtually every other NFL starting quarterback at least played a little bit in the preseason opener. And there have been reports that, very up and down reports on Caleb Williams really since the offseason. Mike Sando of The Athletic comes out with his quarterback tiers article every year. And a bunch of league executives were like ripping Caleb Williams, and don't really think too highly of him already. And they talk about how slow he is as a processor. And you don't want to hear that. And that has been the rhetoric coming out of Bears training camp as well, is that he's just slow on everything. When Case Keenum and Tyson Bagent are running the offense in Bears training camp, the offense moves noticeably quicker and at a faster pace than when Caleb Williams is in there. And Teron Armstead, who, by the way, has a future as an analyst. He just retired. Actually, Nick Underhill went to his retirement party.
Wow.
That's how tight Nick Underhill is with some of the players. But Teron Armstead, I think he just started his own YouTube channel. He went to the Dolphins, Bears intra-squad stuff, and he's like, like processing. He brought that up specifically with Caleb Williams. He's like, you can see that he has star talent, but he has got to pick up the speed of his processing. And that's scary.
Well, that's
this is a guy who took almost 70 sacks last year, and a lot of that was attributable to his slow processing. And now they're going to start a rookie second-round pick at left tackle.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that all their problems have been solved by any means.
The narrative is that, he's slow processing. He held the ball too long. Ben Johnson's going to fix all that. That's been the narrative, right? And if you don't think that's happening, that is a very bad sign. Like, to go from Fraudrin and Eberflus to Ben Johnson should be helping in those areas a ton. So I'm still a little bit more optimistic than Evan, but I'm certainly getting a little bit more queasy on Bears stuff. The guy I take most is Colston Loveland. Beyond that, I have like a little bit probably below field on most of the other guys like Rome, DJ Moore, guys like that. All right. That is going to do it for this look at news and rankings. We moved the news and rankings show to Tuesdays so we can capture all the preseason stuff. So this show will be Tuesdays following week 2 of preseason and following week 3 of preseason. Also, be sure to subscribe on the YouTube machine. Coming out, I believe tomorrow, will be Auction Strategy Show with Chris Eibel, one of the best auction players in the world. We also have a sleeper show coming up later this week with Silva, myself, and Daigle. And then on Friday, we are streaming a draft, a $2,000 buy-in season-long draft, which I'm sure we won't have any bickering between Leone and Silva whatsoever when we're on the clock. For Evan, producer Luke, producer Ryan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.